Welcome to the stories that shape our community. My name is Trevor Moore, and I'll be your host in this Southeast Alberta podcast series where we explore the importance of putting local first and the power positive impact has on shaping our communities. These episodes are about giving listeners a backstage pass as we explore the why behind these great local business stories. There's no one-size-fits-all approach in business, and these journeys are as unique as the people themselves. Our local guests will highlight the challenges, solutions, and philosophies they've employed to overcome adversity, showcase resilience, and have a positive and lasting impact in our community now and well into the future. Our guest today, Mr. Mike Robinson, owner, operator of Agro Plus Solutions. And if those of you who are in a service-based industry understand, we don't sell products, we sell solutions. And that comes through loud and clear in our conversation today with Mike Robinson. And your title would be owner, operator?
Owner, operator, manager, loader, floor sweeper.
All points in between.
Everything that needs to get done.
Yep. The poster child, the marketing director, the whole meat and potatoes.
I made a point actually, looking back when we started Agro Plus, is that we didn't have titles because everybody needs to do what needs to get done. And so there's no box. We're all part of a team. And so the title is Let's Get Her Done.
I love it. What a great philosophy, right? Building that team culture, and that's a big piece. And culture in teamwork culture is both internal and external, right? You're working in partnerships with your clients outward, and your ability to do that is whether you're working with it as a team inwards, right? Tell us a little bit about that. How important is that for you?
It's huge. I mean, we've managed to assemble a great group of people that work with Agro Plus. It's been an evolution, but an evolution by design. So if, agriculture is about getting good people and the relationships those people bring. So we've brought those people on, but bringing them together doesn't make a great culture. And so I've focused a lot, and both my wife and I, that are owners in the business, said from the beginning, we need to have the right attitude for everybody when they're here. And that comes from the top. And so when everybody walks in the door, we want them to feel like you're coming to a great place to work. You want to have fun. We're going to have to get things done, but we can have a little fun along the way. But at the end of it, we want you to go home safe, but we want you to go home and come back tomorrow with the same great attitude. So
love it. That's just a great philosophy, right? Make it a place. You don't want home to be an escape from work, and you don't want work to be an escape from home. You want them to synonymously work together, don't you?
100%. Yep. Work is something that we have to do. It generates revenue. It's something people need to live, but it should be something you want to do. So.
Yeah, nice. Take our listeners through the background. Sure. We talked a bit on the off camera or microphone, if you will, before. But take us through the bullet points of the timeline. How we get to the point where we have Agro Plus Solutions today. How does this look? Where does it start? Where's the brainchild of it? How does it move forward? And how did we get here today in 60 seconds or less? How does that go?
Well, 60 seconds or less. That's a challenge, Trevor.
Okay, maybe not 60 seconds, but
it's for us an interesting story. So Agro Plus has been going since 2015. The first year I ran out of my truck and a trailer, and I delivered everything I had. I had an affiliation with the Foremost location as well as in Lethbridge. So lots of trips early in the morning, pick up chemical, bring it out to our customers. Fast forward 2016, I finally found a building that met the requirements for crop protection business in the area. So here we are in Cypress County, which has been very good to work with. Been going since 2016 here in the building. I've been building the business. Before that was part of an independent business called Gateway Agri Services. Got to know a lot of phenomenal people that were customers of ours. It's because of those people that I'm in business today. And so I've maintained the relationships. I've got to know some of them. Some of them that were customers are now friends. It's been an uphill challenge, as agriculture, as you know, is a little bit of a roller coaster. There's a lot of down and very, very little up at times. And so the last 5 years have been challenging. But it's those challenging times that they really need somebody to ask the questions, the hard questions that can go, okay, put yourself in my shoes. And so I did farm in the past. I grew up in a farm at Burdett. Agriculture, was dryland, cattle, irrigation. And so that's us. That's what Agro Plus Solutions is about, is having the agronomic ability to make the decisions to help guys get through. It's an ROI on information is ultimately what it becomes. So
yeah, it's interesting. I love the man. There's a lot to unpack in that story right there. There's some great nuggets of wisdom. I want to, where do I want to dive in? Because wow, you know what? Let's go right out of the gates.
Yeah.
Started in your car. Clearly, in hindsight, if possible, you would have started it otherwise. If you had ways, if you had the money, the ability, if you had buildings available. I mean, in hindsight, entrepreneurs look back and go, I would have started this differently, but you didn't let it hold you back. No. What's the message there?
No, I mean, like I said, it was something I should have done 10 years earlier. Looking back, that's probably the regret, is that, there was a turning point in within the industry and medicine hat where one of the main entities disappeared in Gateway. And so there's probably an opportunity, but at the time it wasn't right for me. Finances certainly play a part of that. I did try and find a building within, the city and the county and looked at hundreds of buildings, kept running into hurdles regarding the standards for running a crop protection business and having the right protocols in place. Very versed in that now, so if anybody needs a consultant. You just can't lose faith. If you really believe it's something that you want, you're going to run into hurdles, but you have to find ways around or under or over or through it as much as you can, and take no isn't an answer. It's okay, well then, what do we need to do and how do we do it and what's going to take and who do I need to bring in and what support do I need to get? So
yeah, it's exactly right. The resistance isn't the end of progress. It's the end of conventional thinking. And there's a way to get there. I mean, so many entrepreneurs I know, and myself included, I mean, the operation I started with was very skeletal. It was what I did within my budgets and within my means, and I made it work. And it was good. It got me very in touch with the fundamentals of the business process. I learned a lot. I think it helped me in the long run to have maybe had to do some hands-on stuff I didn't want to early on, but you find ways to work around those hurdles because life and business are not without challenge. Whether they're self-inflicted or whether it's, government regulation, whether it's COVID and disaster regulation with tornadoes, it doesn't matter what it is. We will have unbalancing factors way beyond our control. And if we learn to understand how to navigate those without panic and fear early on, we're more skilled at doing it later, aren't we?
100%. I mean, you have to get the skill set, and you don't learn that skill set by somebody telling that. You learn it by doing it. One of the things that we say amongst the team is that if it was too easy, everybody would do it. And so it's the hard things that we have to get through in order to appreciate what we went through, celebrate the success that we did, and we move on to the next one. So it's truly learning from those aspects and then using that to the next step to now what do we do? So.
Yeah, for sure, right? Knowledge is what you grab out of a textbook. Wisdom is what you learn while you apply that knowledge.
It's the reason a lot of gray hair right here.
Yeah, for sure, right? It's not always easy.
It's not.
It's not, and it requires you to have passion and love for what you do, and maybe even more so, love for the people you do it for.
100%. I mean, I would not be sitting here talking to today and doing the things I'm doing if it wasn't for the people that we have as customers. And God bless their souls. They are some of the most genuine people that we have the opportunity to work with. They are resilient. They challenge us all the time. We have the privilege of working with some of the more progressive operators in the area. And that's the fun part, is they have ideas and they have things and they see stuff and they go, well, why can't we get that yield? And why can't we push this? And why can't our rotations do these things? And so it helps us then get outside the box sometimes and think differently in order to come up with different results. And that's the fun part about doing what we're doing. So
yeah, and having those relationships, right? You talked a lot about not just delivering a service, but being able to empathize with your clients because you've been in their shoes. How important is that when you look at the why you operate, why you do what you do, why you have the passion for what you do? How important is that?
It's huge. In order to place yourself in their shoes, you have to understand the why are we making the decision? Why are we going to do that thing? And what is the impact to me? And am I going to get the result? And unless you have been through it and have to, rationalize in your own mind going, well, man, I'm going to spend that much money and I don't know what's going to happen at the end. You really want me to do that, huh?
Yeah.
And you have to have not only the knowledge, but the confidence. And that confidence comes from the background that we've been through. As we talked about that if you haven't done it, then you don't know. So that is 100% is having that, why, where, what, when, and what's my ROI.
Yeah. And that's the big thing. It's just so important. And, when you look at this adversity and you look at why you do it, you're going to have these challenging moments, but it is amazing how important the people are to keeping your energy up into doing it, to see that passion, to be able to look in their eyes when they see it. And you have to build their trust, right? I mean, you are right. You're asking them to make investments in their lives, in their futures, in their operations. And in order for them to fully, wholeheartedly do that, they need to know that you've seen it done, you've done it yourself, you believe it can be done, you've been here before. And it's more than just the physical. It's the mindset and the mental skill that has to go with it. Sometimes you need to be able to take that client and go, I hear you. I know you're worried about this, and this. And their thought is, are you reading my mind? Yeah, it isn't just about applying this or doing that. It's why, it's how, it's the hurdles you're going to experience along the way. And you can walk them through that, having been there, haven't you?
100%. And you know what? It's about knowing the individual and understanding who they are. And so sometimes it's emotional. Sometimes it's, I don't feel good about doing this. And so how and why should I do it? Sometimes it's the physical part about doing it. Like this is the logistics that it's going to take in order to get that done. Sometimes it's the mental part about it. I look back about a month and a half ago, and things were looking pretty desolate out here. We were dry. We had been through 3 or 4 droughts in a row. The mental psyche of the industry was down and not in a good spot. And when you're in that all the time, you become that way. And so very many times in the morning, we would, almost talk to each other and go, okay, like, let's rally today and let's make sure, let's put the happy face on. And let, when guys come in, we got to be the happy ones and make sure that, we are the positive light that helps guide us through this. And, fast forward, here we are today. And overall, things were looking pretty fantastic. We've had a little hiccup on Monday with a little storm that came through, but that Mother Nature is what it is, and we can't control it. And that's the part we have to understand, is we can't control it. And so what do we do with the cards that we're given in order to make the decision that's right? So
yeah, how do you stay focused on the stuff that you have control of? And it's easy. We all get that time where we get baited into things outside of our control, and then we start to be victimized by it, and we become our own problem, right?
For sure.
You talked about being the calming force. An analogy I always use, I love flying. I'm not afraid to fly. But I think in every flight I've ever taken in my life, there's been 30 seconds of turbulence that made me think I was dying. And I always marvel at when the aircraft starts to shake and shudder, everyone's a little uneasy. And what do you see everyone's head do? They lean into the aisle and they look up and back. They're looking for a flight attendant. And if the flight attendant is still handing out coffee, holding babies, and passing out pillows, you kind of breathe a sigh of relief going,
it's not so bad.
Okay, it's not so bad. They're still calm. I mean, they might be terrified inside too, but we look for the flight attendant, don't we? And we look for that in our lives. And it's so important to be that flight attendant for our customers, because they are coming to us with a problem. We're not selling services, we're selling solutions to their problems. And it's just so important that when they come up with that problem, that they can feed and feel off our confidence, isn't it?
It is. I mean, there's a reason we're called AgroPlus Solutions.
There you go.
I mean, when I started out, that was 100% the philosophy, is that we are solving problems. We are not transacting. We are not just delivering. We are there to solve a problem. And first of all, we need to know what the problem is, and then we need to come up with the options, and then the right option that everybody's comfortable with, and it's solving a solution. And so you're right. When you get in some times when those solutions are harder to find, and the things that around you look different, you need that comfort of somewhere that you can go, okay, I trust what they're doing. I'll maybe get a second opinion, but I'm gonna think that this is the right thing to do now. So
yeah, they can lean in on your confidence.
Yep.
Yeah. And that's just such an important piece. I mean, we've talked about a lot. We could talk for an hour and a half, I think, on this. There's so many great business pieces here, but you talked about the adversity of sort of building that vision one step at a time. It may not be the end game where you're at, just start, get going, just build and keep growing as you go. And we talked about building relationships. We've talked about Mother Nature and some of the adversity. Let's look at that. I mean, we're coming through COVID. COVID is a simple example, one that literally all of society can relate to, but it's only a small example of how things are out of our control. I mean, in your industry, you've got weather, storm patterns, and systems. We've been dealing with things. Let's look at drought. Let's look at things that have gone on in this area, which have done very much the same thing to your industry as COVID has to society as a whole. So it's not a unique situation, an off-balancing situation that you have no control of. Take us through a little bit of that and how you've been able to maybe mitigate some of that challenge and some of that adversity. Take us through that.
Sure. COVID specifically, we are, a building business. We're expanding. I brought on some sales staff and agriculture being about the relationships, being about the customers and having the ability to sit down at the coffee table and have the conversation about, what are you thinking? What are you doing? And how are we going to help? And how do we interact and make sure that we execute on the things that need to get done? And then we remove that piece. So now it's a phone call or a text or something. And I'll be honest, that is one of the things when we set out, when I started Agro Plus, is I don't want a text. I don't want a conversation over a phone necessarily. When we do it for a reason, but let's have the face-to-face. Let's sit down and get a better understanding. If I can't understand your business, I can't help you make the right decision. And so when we remove the opportunity to have those, and bringing new sales staff on, and one of them had some great relationships, and one of them was a younger guy that is wanting to make relationships, and now it's gone. Mm-hmm. So for 2 years, we really, had to force ourselves to focus on, let's spend more time talking to guys, understanding in whatever capacity we can in order to help get through that. And so, compound that from a customer standpoint, where they also like to have those conversations. They're very people orientated.
I got to stop you right there for a second, because I would venture a guess, demographically speaking, based on what I know, because you're not talking people in their lawns in the city of Medicine. You're talking rural areas, and rural is all about community. It is all about connection. Know your neighbor, know the people. It's about handshakes. It's about the whites of the eyes, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Even more so in that line of work with what you're doing. That's prevalent everywhere, but nothing says community like a small town or a rural area. They live and support one another, and they know they have to. They rely on each other.
They do. It's the way people were brought up. It's the way of life. It's expected, but it's expected by natural things. It's not somebody tells you to do that. As an example, the storm Monday, people rallied around the neighbors that had some things that happened that decimated a lot of their normal day-to-day life. And so even today, we've got guys that are putting crews together and going over and helping, and none of those guys likely that had anything happen made a phone call to say, hey, would you mind? But I can guarantee that there's a lot of neighbors that just went and did it because it's the right thing to do. Yeah. And they don't want to get paid for it. They don't want to get anything other than it in my heart and it in society, in my head, this is right. Yeah. And that's the way of life.
When you look at the world, I live in the city, and I look at, an issue, a challenge, a disaster. We have emergency services. We have police, we have fire, we have ambulance, the first responders. Rurally, your neighbors are your first responders. The emergency services are the second responders.
Very true.
It's such a different perspective in the rural community, and your neighbors are and always will be your first responders. It doesn't matter what is going on on your property, they will be your first responders. And that's such an important piece out there.
It is. And, going back to the COVID and having 4 years of drought, throwing COVID. So some tough times, throwing the inability to have those day-to-day conversations per se, it left a lot of people kind of wondering, and from a mental state, it was challenging, and you had to have a real strong psyche about you in order to see your way through sometimes to make it go, okay, tomorrow will be better. The sun will come up and tomorrow's going to be a brighter day.
Yeah. So. And that's the hard thing, right? There's been so much study and science done on the power of hope, and sometimes it's tough to be hopeful. Isn't it? It really is. It just seems circumstantially everything's just stacked against us. And we always come out stronger on the other side. But it is a challenge when you're going through it. It is never fun. Your sense of community, your sense of collaboration, your from your staff to your clients, it is just so important to you, clearly, to make your business a place that people feel safe, feel comfortable, feel trusted, feel heard, both from a staff perspective and a client perspective. Where does that come from? How does that seed build in you? Who were your mentors? What were your moments?
I grew up on a farm out of Burdett. My parents were very much community oriented people. My wife grew up on a rural farm in southeast Saskatchewan, and her parents were very involved in the community as well, whether it's on boards or committees or whatever had to be done. And so it's always been part of who I am. I've spent time in other rural areas across the prairies and different places I've worked, but I've always wanted to be part of the community, whether it's coaching or be part of the board of directors on the curling club or the Kinsman club or whatever has to get done. And so, those are things I guess you don't get told, you learn, and it becomes part of who you are. And I guess my hope is that I get to pass that on to my kids. And so being in an urban center, it gets a little more challenging now. It rurally, because of that neighborly, if you don't do it, then it's not going to get done. So everybody chips together and let's just get it done. In an urban center, it's not quite as much that way. And so, being part of the community from an Agro Plus standpoint is huge. Our customers are the ones that pay our bills. And if we can help be part of the communities, whether it's in the curling rink or the hockey rink or the 4-H club or the school or, anything, the rodeo club or the track racing that goes on, the mud bogs, whatever, it's Quonset days out of the Beemans this week. I mean, those are the guys that put their heart and soul into things. And when you see that, it's contagious and you need to be part of it. So
yeah, it is contagious to want to be part of something bigger than yourself, right? Yep. And it's important to notice that. One thing I want to ask, and maybe this just pops off the top of my head, is I had a mentor one time say that the big key in entrepreneurship is identifying when the business is outgrowing the entrepreneur, meaning it's no longer just about you. You need to start pulling resources in. What was that moment for you when you went, you know what? Wow, okay, this is bigger than what I have to hold on to. I need to start increasing my envelope of people on my plate here.
That's a good question, because when you look at your overhead, and again, having come through some tough years, the growth was pretty good. We continued growing the business every year, maybe not as fast as what I was hoping for, but you get to a point where you're just stretched so much for time and you can't do the things that need to get done or that you feel need to get done. Mm-hmm. I don't know. I've never had the conversation. I probably should with some of my customers. Say, like, was there a time where I didn't get the things done that you needed to get done? But that's how I felt, and so that was in essence the moment where I went, okay, I'm not doing it right, and if I'm doing a poor job, then I'm really going to be going backwards. And so I need to get some help, and not just help. I need good help. And so, resources are hard to find. People are harder to find, and great people are like diamonds in a rough. And God bless their soul, I have some fantastic people that are working for me right now. And that goes back to the culture, is that I have to, I need to make sure that when they walk in the building that they want to be here and they feel as much an owner as I do. And they have as much energy and time and invested. And I would love for when somebody walks into Agro Plus Solutions, they say, oh, I want to talk to one of those guys that are there. It's not, I want to come in and talk to Mike because, he's who I've dealt with all the time.
Yes.
I need, the challenge now is building somewhat of a brand versus just having people.
Yeah. It's funny you say that. I have a friend who is in business, and that was a turning point for him, as he said, when his first customer came in and just said, I need to speak to such and such. And it wasn't him. Yeah. He's like, what have I done wrong? And he's like, no, what have I done right?
100%.
They didn't do that to avoid me. They did it because they don't care if it's me or him. They're going to get the same level of compassionate care regardless. And at first he said he took offense to it. It was like, well, what about me? Then he was like, that's the moment. Oh my gosh, it's working. My staff have created this relationship where people are like, I will be cared for in this building. It doesn't matter who I'm looking at.
That totally. And I mean, probably this year has been one of those years that we've seen a little bit of that transition, and it's exactly that. I've had people walk in the office and go by my office to other offices, and I'm like, well, geez, wonder what's going on. Is there something they're avoiding me? But it is, and it's great. That's exactly what we were trying to achieve. And as long as both parties are doing the things and getting the needs taken care of that are desired, then we're going to be successful. So
yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. Mike, what is the future look like? Let's finish with the future for Agro Plus Solutions. What's the vision? Where do you hope to see yourself in 10 years?
I mean, so fast forward 2.5 years into the business. Actually, I'm a partnership with a business down in Foremost, and so The AgroPlus name has been around for 20 plus years. Started in Foremost, Alberta, Warren and Kerry Butterwick. They helped a good affiliate, and now my partner and good friend, Harv Reimer, get going in Lethbridge with AgroPlus Inc. I started AgroPlus Solutions. No, by design, they're all the same name, but different entities. And so looking back, that's probably one of the challenges is we have 3 separate entities that are working together, that when we're bringing that, as we work as one, but we're 3. So we're, that's the near future. We're trying to consolidate and bring together how that looks. So in 5 years, I would have never thought I would have been here 5 or 6 years ago, 7 years ago. I know we're in business. So the future has been fairly rapid. I don't believe that we're done potentially growing. And again, it's going to be calculated growth, and it's going to be based on the right thing at the right time. But probably the most important part is going to be having the right people. And so when the right people came along in Foremost, we knew we had to do something. Was it the right time? Not necessarily, but it was the time that we had to get it done. And so we did. And so we, partner Harv and I sat down many hours and went through this and went, geez, I don't know if this is going to work or not. And whatever, we have to make it work. And so let's just get done what we need to get done. So I think there's opportunities that are going to be out there in different geographic regions, that if there's guys that are looking for good agronomic advice and dealing with good people that will help them make good decisions for their operations, then I think there's opportunities. So
that's awesome. So growth brings problems, just different problems, and that's okay, right? We never get rid of our problems. As long as we're not staring the same problems in the eyes 5 years down the road, we're growing. It doesn't mean we're not growing because we have a lack of problems, just different problems. And as you grew and bigger and multiple entities, bringing it together, it just takes some stuff. So Mike, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been awesome talking with you. I love your passion for people, for relationships, for business. And I really want to thank you for all your work, and thank you for being here today.
Trevor, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you to our podcast sponsor, the Medicine Hat and District Chamber of Commerce, who is fueling the business community in Southeast Alberta through connections, support, and influence. They're driven to shape our community. Their hope is that this podcast will help fuel you and your passion for supporting local first. To learn more about the Medicine Hat District Chamber of Commerce, or to watch more episodes of the stories that shape our community, please visit them online at medicinehatchamber.com/stories that shape our community. In addition, please follow us on your favorite podcast streaming app so you don't miss any of the unique stories we share, the inspiring guests who share them, and the impact they have had in Southeast Alberta. Stories are all around us. We just need to connect and be able to share them. If you want to be featured on this podcast with a story of your business or organization, or if you know a story that should be shared, please submit a nomination through the Chamber website. Thanks again for watching and listening today. We look forward to sharing more stories with you that help shape our community. I'm Trevor Moore, the host of Stories That Shape Our Community, and I challenge you all, be sure to help shape our community through your very own story.